Hi everyone, welcome to Best Recipes with Sharon. And here we are today, we're going to be making hot dog pogos, and we have a bonus recipe for funnel cakes. So stay with me and I'll show you how I make them. Start by pouring some canola oil into a medium-sized pot. Turn your heat on high and place a thermometer in your pot. Gather all your ingredients and get a large mixing bowl with a spoon. I add 2 cups of all-purpose flour to the mixing bowl. Then add 1/3 of a cup of white sugar. Add 1 large egg. A 1/4 of a cup of canola oil. Now 1 tablespoon of baking powder. And a 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. Start by adding 1 cup of milk. You will need to add a little bit more until it gets to the right consistency. So I'm adding about another 1/4 of a cup of milk here, and just stir it until it's mixed together really well. Don't overmix. And I let the batter sit for a minute or two, and then I add a little bit more milk if I need to. The baking powder would have activated by now, and you can check out the consistency better. And just thin with milk until the batter flows easily and slowly from the spoon. Now line some pans or plates with some paper towels or parchment paper. Always use good quality wieners. And I'm just using original Red Hots. And make sure you have some popsicle sticks on hand. Now I'm starting with about 12 of these wieners, and I'm submersing them in the batter like this. Make sure they're evenly coated. Place them in the hot oil. Your oil needs to be about 360 degrees. And you can start by doing just 1, or you can do up to 3 if you're brave enough. So here's a couple in the oil now, and of course the more you do, the more it will lower the temperature of your oil. So every time you add 1 in, the temperature of the oil will drop a little, so you're always adjusting your temperature back and forth. And these will brown up a little bit on one side. You'll need to flip them over to the other side and back and forth. And the time it takes to cook them will be approximately 5 minutes, but that's give or take a little bit, depending on each individual one and what your temperature stays at. If your temperature is too hot, then it won't cook through properly. If it's too low, it'll be soggy. So even once they've browned, make sure they are golden and browned up nicely and in the oil long enough. So there will be some fluctuation in the temperature. Try to keep it between 340 and 360 degrees. And so we continue to dip the wieners into the batter and place them in the hot canola oil. They will sink to the bottom and then float to the top. So you just want your pot, your oil, and your thermometer. Not a good idea to use a wire basket. It'll stick to the bottom of it and you'll have a mess. And here you can see I'm brave enough to do 3 at a time. Once you're all done, remove your hot oil from the heat source immediately and turn your element off. Now these are all nice and golden brown. I'm going to trim them up a little bit, and then they'll be ready to put the popsicle sticks in. Now my grandson has other ideas for the popsicle sticks, and that looks like fun too. Now back to my stash. So I'll insert popsicle sticks into the end of each of the pogos. And I trim off any of the hard pieces that have formed just to make it look nice and so that it has a nicer texture. You don't have to do that. If you don't care, you can eat them just with the crispies on it if you want. Now you can serve it with whatever condiments you like. I prefer just mustard. Some like mustard and ketchup. You can do whatever you like, of course. And the inside should look like this, well cooked and great texture. I made 12 of these pogos, but I have some leftover batter. Now what do you do with the leftover batter? Funnel cakes, of course! And funnel cakes usually have a little bit of cinnamon in them, so you can add about a 1/4 of a teaspoon of cinnamon if you want. Now get this, you'll have to add more milk to thin it even more than you would for the pogos. It has to be able to go through about a 1/2 inch hole in a funnel. And test this in your bowl before doing it in the oil. And you want your oil to be the same temperature as it was for the pogos. And you place the batter in the funnel and let it flow through like this into the oil. Then once it's browned up nicely on one side, take and flip it over to the other side. Using different utensils can help you out, so whatever works for you and whatever you have available. Drain your funnel cakes on some paper towels and dust them generously with some powdered sugar. These are so heavenly. They're pleasantly sweet and have a nice crunchy texture. And because I use all-purpose flour, I can do that with the leftover batter. But if you chose to do corn dogs instead, I wouldn't necessarily use the leftover batter for the funnel cakes. It's not the same texture. Now you have my recipe on how I do pogos, but also you have the option of making corn dogs and or funnel cakes. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, have fun and happy eating.